In December 2008, the Air Force publicly canceled a darling program called Black Swift, a scramjet-powered drone that was supposed to fly Mach 6 and land like an airplane. Defense blogs mourn for a weekend. What nobody knows is that the cancellation was theater. The money didn't disappear, it just went deeper black. 200 miles south of Las Vegas, inside a hangar at Groom Lake that officially doesn't exist, engineers from Northrop Grumman were already welding the center section of something much bigger, much quieter, and infinitely more survivable. In today's video, we present to you the RQ-180. If it's right above you, you'll never know. Fast forward to 2010, the Air Force ran a secret three-way fly-off. Lockheed's proposal, Boeing's, and Northrop's. Northrop won and designed a flying wing with no vertical tail, no visible engines, and a wingspan that looked absurd. It had already started flying and has never really stopped. For the next 3 years, it was just rumors and blurry photos. Insiders called it the White Bat, or Shamu, because of the two-tone paint. Then, on December 6, 2013, Aviation Week's Bill Sweetman and Amy Butler published 5 paragraphs that changed everything. They named it RQ-180, a stealthy, high-altitude, long-endurance drone built by Northrop Grumman for the Air Force's most secret reconnaissance unit. The story cited multiple senior sources and classified budget documents. The Pentagon refused to comment, which in Washington is basically a yes. After that, the breadcrumbs kept appearing. A cryptic line in the 2014 Air Force budget for advanced ISR airframe development. By 2019, the Air Force's own public roadmap for the next 20 years mentioned a family of penetrating ISR systems that could only be one thing. The Ghost was already on active duty. The RQ-180 looks unreal. One continuous diamond-shaped wing, gently cranked in the middle like a kite that learned aerodynamics from a stealth bomber. No fuselage hump, no tail, no cockpit. Just a thin, razor-sharp leading edge that glints ceramic gray, and a trailing edge thick enough to hide engines, fuel, and every sensor the Air Force has ever dreamed of. The wingspan is the part that makes people swear. 172 feet tip to tip. That's 40 feet wider than a B-2 Spirit and only 20 feet shorter than a Boeing 737-800. Yet the thing weighs less, empty, than a fully loaded F-15E. How? It's built with composites we still don't have public names for. Carbon lattices infused with radar-eating particles, and leading edges made of a new ceramic that stays cool at Mach 0.85 and drinks radar alive. It was painted bright anti-flash white on top and pale ghost gray below, designed to disappear against the sky day or night. From directly underneath it looks like a thin white line. From any other angle, it simply isn't there. Nothing ruins stealth like a pair of roaring afterburning engines hanging in the breeze. So Northrop buried the power plants deep inside the wing, feeding them through serpentine inlets on top that no radar can see into. The engines themselves are the part everyone wants to talk about. Most credible reporting says they're derivatives of the adaptive cycle engine developed for the F-35 and the Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion Program. An engine that can reconfigure its own internals in flight. At takeoff, it acts like a normal turbofan for maximum thrust. At 65,000 feet, it switches to a high bypass cycle that sips fuel so efficiently, the drone can stay aloft for 24 to 30 hours without refueling. That's longer than a Global Hawk and twice as long as a U-2 on a good day, all while flying high enough to stay above every surface-to-air missile on Earth except the very newest Russian and Chinese ones. And even those have trouble locking something with a radar cross-section smaller than a sparrow. This is where the RQ-180 stops being a plane and starts being a flying panopticon. The long, conformally mounted AESA radar panels run the full length of both leading and trailing edges, giving true 360-degree coverage without moving a muscle. Under the center of the wing sits a rotating turret the size of a compact car packed with electro-optical and infrared cameras that can zoom in on a cell phone screen from the stratosphere. Side-looking synthetic aperture radar can map terrain in 3D through clouds, smoke, or camouflage netting. Then there's the Signals Intelligence Suite. The RQ-180 reportedly carries a scaled-down version of the gear on the RC-135 rivet joint, but with newer processors and much bigger antennas hidden in the wing. It can geolocate a single cell phone call or radar emission from hundreds of miles away. Perhaps most unsettling is the Wide Area Motion Imagery System, a cluster of cameras that can watch 100 square miles at once, track every moving vehicle or person, and store the footage for weeks. One RQ-180 can literally see every car driving in a medium-sized country in real time. But how does it compare to other recon drones? Let's put it in plain numbers. RQ-4 Global Hawk could only boast of a 131 feet wingspan with a 60,000-foot ceiling. It can go all the way for 32 hours, but it's got zero stealth. Iran shot one down with a 30-year-old missile in 2019. The U-2S Dragon Lady is much shorter with a 105 feet wingspan and can reach 75,000 feet on a perfect day, but it's got just a 12-hour endurance and no stealth whatsoever. It is manned by one human pilot who has to wear a spacesuit. The RQ-180, on the other hand, has a 172 feet wingspan and routinely cruises above 60,000 feet. Experts say it can breach 75,000 plus 24 to 30 plus hour endurance. B-2 class stealth, no pilot on board. It's not just an upgrade, it's the moment reconnaissance aviation grew up and replaced two completely different aircraft with one platform that beats both at their own game. In the old days, deep reconnaissance was a gamble. You either sent a fragile Global Hawk and hoped nobody noticed, or you sent a U-2 and hoped the pilot came home. Against Russia or China, both options were suicidal. Now the Air Force planners can put an untouchable pair of eyes directly over Beijing, Moscow, or Tehran for an entire day, stream live 4K video to commanders on the ground, and queue weapons within minutes. That's called compressing the kill chain, and it changes everything. Now a Chinese warship leaving port can be shadowed from the moment it leaves the pier until it reaches the Taiwan Strait by something Beijing literally cannot shoot down. A Russian mobile ICBM can be watched 24/7 until the order comes to destroy it. In a major war, this one aircraft turns the old cat and mouse game of hide and seek into permanent checkmate. The first operational squadron stood up quietly at Tonopah around 2017 to 2018, flying alongside the last F-117s before those retired for good. By 2020, satellite imagery showed 4 new box hangars at Anderson AFB on Guam, each exactly 200 feet wide, air-conditioned, and guarded like Fort Knox. That's parking for RQ-180 staring straight at China. In 2022, the 9th Reconnaissance Wing at Beale, California, the famous U-2 unit, changed its official patch and mission statement to include advanced classified ISR platforms. This could only mean one thing: the white bats had come home. Since 2023, civilian pilots over the Western Pacific routinely report a giant white kite shape at 60 to 70,000 feet that never talks to air traffic control and never shows on radar. In 2024, the tempo exploded. Forward operating locations popped up at Kadena in Okinawa, RAF Fairford in England, and Al Udeid in Qatar. The fleet is believed to number 12 to 18 airframes, with 4 to 7 in the air at any given moment. Newly declassified data reveals the RQ-180 shadowed every Chinese carrier group that left port in 2023 and 2024. When Beijing ran its biggest ever exercise around Taiwan in August 2023, an RQ-180 reportedly sat overhead for 28 straight hours, handing real-time tracks to the Pentagon war planners. It has watched North Korea's missile brigade so closely that Pyongyang now only moves TELs, transporter erector launchers, in tunnels or at 3 a.m., and even then the drone still sees them in the infrared. Over Iran, the RQ-180 has become a nightly visitor, mapping underground facilities at Natanz and Fordo in resolutions fine enough to count centrifuges. And since early 2023, at least one has been permanently tasked to the Ukraine fight, launched from Ramstein or Mildenhall, refueled by stealth tankers over the Black Sea, feeding targeting data to Kiev that Moscow's best jammers can't touch. But what if other superpowers land this technology? Imagine China takes hold of RQ-180-inspired drones, vast bat-winged phantoms like the GJ-11 Sharp Sword or CH-7, but scaled up to the US model's 172-foot span that can loiter at 70,000 feet for 30 hours undetected. drawing from China's real programs like the supersonic WZ-8 for hypersonic recon and the stealthy GJ-11 for precision strikes. Beijing could reverse engineer or innovate this tech via its civil-military fusion, surging ahead and outpacing DARPA's X-65. Launching from Hainan Island bases, they'd relay real-time data via low probability of intercept links to J-20 fighters or hypersonic DF-17 missiles, compressing the kill chain to minutes. As Aviation Week's Bill Sweetman notes on similar U.S. platforms, this unblinking eye enables preemptive strikes on Anderson AFB Guam or Yokosuka's 7th Fleet, and these are vital U.S. hubs. China could blind American early warning, isolating Hawaii and forcing Washington into reactive defense. Pressure points amplify this edge. 21.6% of China's trade and 40% of global containers ship through the Taiwan Strait. Once China takes full control, it becomes a dagger. A massive drone swarm could enforce a blockade, sinking U.S. resupply convoys with air-to-surface munitions while WZ-8s scout invasion routes. Taiwan is home to TSMC's 90% semiconductor monopoly, and seizing Taiwan would cripple U.S. tech supply chains, hiking iPhone costs 30% overnight and stalling NGAD fighters. Beijing's Malacca dilemma could flip. Instead of fearing U.S. blockades, China would wield them. The Strait of Malacca threads 80% of China's oil imports and 25% of world trade with over $3.5 trillion annually. This is the ultimate chokehold. RQ-180-like drones could jam GPS and cue anti-ship ballistic missiles like DF-21Ds, halting Singapore-flagged tankers. Reroutes via Lombok Strait would add 84 to 220 billion yearly in costs, starving Europe's refineries and spiking Brent crude to $150 per barrel. Commercially, this tech seizes arteries. The South China Sea carries 1/3 of global shipping, linking ASEAN's $3 trillion economy to Beijing's Belt and Road. Stealth drones enforce 9 dash line claims, harassing Philippine or Vietnamese rigs. Once you pivot to the Indian Ocean, from Djibouti bases, the RQ-180 could completely supervise Hormuz and Bab al-Mandab Straits, where 20 to 30% of the world's oil is in transit. A blockade could reroute 30% of Middle East crude around Africa, inflating U.S. gas prices 50% and eroding alliances. Globally, China ascends as an indispensable power, exporting sanitized GJ-11 variants to Pakistan or Iran. Arctic routes via Power of Siberia 2 become secure alternatives, funneling Russian gas while U.S. LNG idles. Economically, we're looking at $1 trillion in seized trade reroutes to Shanghai exchanges. Militarily, they could easily deter NATO. Give Russia or Iran even a handful of true RQ-180 equivalents, and the global balance tilts violently in their favor. Neither needs a large fleet. 5 to 10 airframes would be enough to rewrite the rules of power projection. Russia already flies the smaller S-70 Okhotnik stealth UCAV, but a Russian RQ-180 clone would turn the entire Northern Sea route and Arctic into Moscow's private lake. Launching from upgraded Tu-95s or N-124s as motherships from Olenogorsk or Anadyr, a single drone could loiter undetected for a full day above the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, the choke point for every US and NATO submarine moving between the Atlantic and the Arctic. With wide-area ASA and SIGINT suites, it maps every Virginia-class SSN transit in real time and cues hypersonic Zircon or Kinjal strikes from Bastion P coastal batteries. Southward, the same platform orbits permanently over the Black Sea and Eastern Mediterranean from Khmeimim Air Base in Syria. It watches the U.S. 6th Fleet out of Naples, tracks every Israeli F-35 sortie, and feeds coordinates to S-500 batteries in Crimea and Tartus. A 2024 exercise already showed Russia practicing drone director concepts. Give them 30-hour stealth endurance, and the Eastern Med becomes a no-go zone for carriers. Commercial pressure is even simpler. One drone over the Danish Straits or Bosporus can spoof AIS signals and force LNG tankers bound for Europe to divert, spiking European gas prices 200 to 300% in winter, which is exactly what Moscow wants. Former Russian Deputy Defense Minister Yuri Borisov hinted that large stealth UAVs with intercontinental range are already in low-rate production, so the subtext was clear. Iran, on the other hand, needs deniability and terror leverage. An Iranian RQ-180 copy, call it the Shad 180, would be built with Chinese adaptive cycle engines and Russian avionics, and invisible to Patriot, THAAD, or Aegis radars. From there, it could perform 3 missions simultaneously. Real-time battle management for proxy swarms, Houthi, Hezbollah, Kataib Hezbollah, queuing one-way Shahed 136/238 kamikaze drones, and Fateh 110 ballistic missiles onto tankers and U.S. warships with minute precision. On the other hand, total maritime denial, by simply being present and occasionally illuminating ships with low probability of intercept radar, it forces commercial insurers to cancel war risk coverage. Lloyd's of London already raised Hormuz premiums 800% during the 2019 to 2020 tanker wars. A persistent stealth eye would make the strait permanently closed. Close it for a month and Brent crude hits $200 to $250 per barrel, collapsing Western economies while Iran's own oil finds eager buyers in China at any price. The same drone relays encrypted video to Hezbollah Al-Manar TV, live streaming burning tankers and helpless U.S. destroyers, breaking Western political will faster than any ground invasion. Iran already tested a 60,000-foot hail platform in 2022 and openly boasts of stealth flying wing projects. Give the IRGC-10 RQ-180 class airframes, and the Persian Gulf becomes Tehran's lake, the global energy market becomes its hostage, and Islamic resistance proxies become surgically unstoppable, all while maintaining plausible deniability. In both cases, the technology is the great equalizer, a cheap, expendable, untouchable eye that turns limited military power into global veto power. Some experts already call the RQ-180 the quarterback of 6th-gen warfare. The Air Force already has plans on the shelf to turn the RQ-180 into the brain of an entire robotic air force. Future upgrades will let it control swarms of smaller collaborative combat aircraft, cheap expendable drones that can fly into danger the mothership never has to face. There's serious talk of giving it an internal bay that can launch and recover its own mini-drones mid-flight, like an airborne aircraft carrier. Even when the manned next-generation air dominance fighter shows up in the 2030s, the RQ-180 will still be the one flying deepest and staying longest. Most analysts expect the fleet to grow to 30 or 40 airframes and serve well past 2050. Right now, several RQ-180s are flying. One is gliding in slow circles above the East China Sea, watching 3 Chinese aircraft carriers conduct night operations. Another is parked motionless at 68,000 feet over eastern Ukraine, counting every Russian truck that dares to move. A third might be orbiting the Strait of Hormuz, watching Iran's latest missile test. They leave no contrail, make no sound, show up on no civilian radar, and will still be there tomorrow, and the day after that. Somewhere above the clouds, 13 miles straight up, a pure white cranked kite silhouette hangs in the dark, cameras open, recording everything that happens on the planet below. It has been watching us for 15 years, and it isn't going anywhere.